Hey everyone, welcome to Weirdest News in History, or Weirdest News Wednesday, as some of you are calling it, with your host, me, Ben Chasteen. And tonight I'll be talking about number 5, A Remarkable Twist of Fate, a little B movie from 1939 titled Code of the Secret Service, that hardly anyone ever heard of, played a pivotal role for little Jerry Parr, who years later was inspired to join the Secret Service because of it. Amazingly, he ended up saving the life of the actor who was the president of the United States of America at that time. And number 4, almost every Florida man story starts out with, here's something you don't see every day. And if you didn't know any better, you would think that this video was taken while filming the next Mission Impossible movie. And number 3, here's a question worth $200,000. Can a car accident turn you gay? Well, for one man, he said it did. Hear that? That's kind of a crazy story. Number 2, when a woman in Turkey was pregnant with a son in the late 1950s, she dreamed of a man who appeared to her with a bloody face. 4 years later, her son told her that he was that man. And number 1, we all heard of the Trinity bomb test in New Mexico in 1945. However, most people haven't heard of the Trinity UFO case, which is a tale that sounds like a story that could have been ripped right out of the X-Files. So stay tuned to hear the weirdest news in history with me, your host, Ben Chasteen. This is going to be a great weirder news for sure. Weirdest news. All right, let's just jump into it. Number 5 here. The cinematic inspiration behind a real hero. This story literally sounds like a plot from like a movie that you would see now. So in A Remarkable Twist of Fate, a B movie that's from 1939 titled Code of the Secret Service, starred Ronald Reagan. It was pretty much an unheard of movie that no one really thought too much about at all. Well, Jerry Parr was only 9 years old when he went to go see the film, and he said he didn't know what it was about the movie, but he never forgot it. Little did young Parr know that this movie would set the stage for his future career and a moment of heroism that would intertwine his destiny with that of Ronald Reagan, the very actor he watched on screen. This is what he said. Jerry said, he said, it was such a strange thing seeing this image on a film when I was 9 years old, and then I ended up helping save his life. So what happened was, I think a lot of you know, but as President Ronald Reagan exited the Washington Hilton Hotel, shots rang out from would-be assassin John Hinckley Jr. And in a split-second decision, Parr shoved Reagan into the presidential limousine, a move he had once seen that was dramatized in the movie itself. That's what's mind-blowing about this. This quick action likely saved Reagan's life, as one of Hinckley's bullets had indeed struck the president. Though at first, Parr didn't realize it hit. He thought he saved him in time before the bullet hit him, but then he realized he got hit, but it still saved Reagan's life. The bullet had ricocheted off the limousine and then hit Reagan under his left arm, lodging into his lung, dangerously close to his heart. Recognizing the signs of a potential fatal injury, Parr made the critical decision to divert from the White House to the George Washington University Hospital, which basically saved Reagan's life. If they went straight to the White House, probably Reagan would have died. So years after the incident, Parr reflected on the surreal connection between his life and the movie, noting how Reagan, the actor, had inadvertently inspired his own protector. Parr's action that day not only saved the president, but also highlighted how deeply the threads of cinema can, weave into the fabric of real life. Seriously. I mean, from another perspective, I'm like, this is probably just what's supposed to happen. This is like proof to me, like, yeah, there's definitely God exists, there's this divine aspect to everything. Here's this little boy watching this movie about this president getting shot in this movie in the Secret Service. And then lo and behold, it's like, what happens? And also he saves the life of the person in the movie who is representing the president as well. It's just insane. So after retiring from the Secret Service in 1985, Parr turned to a different calling, becoming a pastor. Yet his legacy as the agent who saved President Reagan remains a testament to the unexpected ways in which life imitates art. His story is actually in an autobiography called In the Secret Service, where he shared his incredible journey, as well as like how it inspired him as a kid to become a member of the Secret Service. So totally just mind-blowing, it really is. Like, I have to be honest, when I watched the Schindler's List, it really had a profound impact on me as a kid too. Like, I don't know, it was just like it was something about that ending of the movie specifically that just always stayed with me. And I didn't like it. Was weird. I remember, like, I just went to go see it with my dad, and I think one of my friends went too, and I was like 13 or something at the time. And yeah, I just remember that the movie just had a really profound impact on me. So anyway, I think these things can really impact us. So Karate Kid did too, and I think that's why I was like, Karate Kid 2 specifically. It really had an impact on my life as well, and I was like wanting to get more into, like, I started researching Japanese culture and became like obsessed with ancient Chinese culture. I think all because of it. So it's amazing, really, how movies can shape our destinies in some aspects. Then you could say, well, that was just all meant to be. But then at the same time, you can understand how that can be used as like a disadvantage or taken advantage of, I should say, by nefarious forces as well, and that's the danger of it. And so, but, I think in the long run, kids are more innocent and they don't see those agendas. And, and I think that's one positive aspect about being a kid and how you see things. So anyway, pretty amazing. Such an amazing story. But all right, number 4 is also an amazing story, but not in a really positive way. Number 4, Florida man clings to semi-truck for 9 miles on freeway. Why? That is the big question. Why? Lindsay, can you play the audio? Just start from there.
Florida be like, what the?
Sorry, okay. What is going on here?
Oh my
What
God.
is going on? That's the question. All right, you.
Yo! Holy.
Okay, you can pause it, or you can pause the audio. You can just pause the audio. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess this really wouldn't be Florida man without this kind of story. For those of you that don't know, Florida is known to have people arrested for doing irrational, weird, or straight up just insane actions in Florida. There are memes and websites devoted to it. So literally the scene sounds more like something you would see from Mission Impossible, or like you expecting, like, where's all the cameras? Are they filming a Mission Impossible scene? This man decided to cling on the hood of a semi truck while bashing the windshield with his fists. At the same time, the semi drivers like swerving really fast left and right, trying to get the guy off of his windshield. What is going on? It's still even hard to this day to understand what is really happening here. It was all captured in this viral video by this passing by motorist. Again, the truck driver is like swerving back and forth. So, according to the truck driver, the man just jumped on his hood of his own violation and started causing a ruckus for no reason. That's according to the truck driver himself. The man, I guess, was driving with another male in an SUV when, according to reports, began to act strangely, stopped the car, jumped out, walked along the highway, then hopped the concrete divider into the median onto the northbound traffic lane, so the cars are coming. And then just as this truck slowed down because they didn't want to hit him, jumped on the truck for some strange reason and stayed this way for 9 miles. I I guess he was like bashing the windshield with his fist and even his forehead. At one point, the man turns to the passing by car that was filming, and he kept saying, "Call the police, call the police." The person who recorded the video said the man also used a metal object trying to break the windshield too. No clue why the man decided to do this from anyone's perspective. I looked everywhere trying to find the answer to the $1 million question there. And I could not find an answer. All that was known is that after the event, the man was eventually arrested, taken to a psychiatric evaluation for 72 hours. Sorry, I was having a hard time pronouncing that word. So, I guess I don't know if he's still in jail or if he's like, just in a mental hospital or what, but, yeah, only in Florida, really, would you see something like that.
Okay,
And
but my
there's,
question is, a crazy guy hops on your truck. Do you keep driving for 9 miles or do you slow down and pull over? Because
I
I feel
don't
like that was
know.
really weird. He's trying to shake him off.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing. Maybe the truck driver just was like so taken back that he was afraid that if he stops the car, the guy would actually try to like break his other window and get in the car. Like maybe he thought he was trying to hijack his truck. I have no idea, but it is weird nonetheless. Um, I mean, it's from both perspectives. It is weird. And some people were like, well, maybe the guy knew him or something, and I was like, no, he just some random event in Florida. So I guess there's a lot of these Florida man stories because a lot of people with like drug problems or drug abuse and all kinds of things come to Florida because there's a lot of programs to try to help these kind of people. And then like sometimes they relapse or whatever. So there's a lot of these people in Florida, I guess. And that's why there's this Florida man thing. I mean, this does kind of happen all over the country, but for some strange reason, it's way more common in Florida, and there's a lot of alligators that are in the headlines with the Florida man. I was finding so many headlines, and I was like, I got to use some of these eventually because they're so funny. Yeah. Anyway, they're hilarious. These Florida man stories, I can't get over them. Go to our number 3 here. Can a car accident make you gay? This was actually published in the LA Times. A person saw this in a different newspaper and sent it to the LA Times, to a columnist in 1998. In response to the headline, the columnist wrote, "If I had not seen the clipping with my own eyes, I would not believe it." So the story is a 27-year-old Michigan man, not from Florida, I was kind of surprised, who explained that a rear-ended, no pun intended there, or maybe a pun intended, however you want to look at that, a rear-ended auto collision had turned him into a homosexual. I mean, was it because he was rear-ended? I don't know. But amazingly, he was awarded $200,000 by the jury. The man claimed the accident left him unable to carry on a normal relationship with his wife. $200,000? He was actually awarded this by the jury. However, it seems his back was the only physical injury he had. But he said the accident had a jarring effect on his personality and altered his sexuality. So, in other words, his back was kind of injured, but then he said that it turned him gay because it affected his relationship with his wife. I have no idea how that works. It doesn't seem like he even hit his head. So I'm totally left clueless on this one. His attorney told the jury that he left his wife, moved in with his parents, started to hang around gay bars, and reading homosexual literature. I don't even know whatever that means, homosexual literature, but that's what he started to do. The man filed the suit against the owners of the truck that hit him. Somehow the jury awarded him $200,000 to him and another $25,000 to his wife. I am totally at a loss for that one. All I can say is, you have Florida man, and then you have weird things that get passed by jury in LA, in California specifically. So, yep. I don't even know what to say about that one. Part of me is like, is he just trying to get $200,000 out of this and just making up an excuse, But hey, whatever floats your boat, I guess, here, or makes your car drive, I guess, in that case. But all right, let's move on to something a little bit more concrete, shall we? All right, number 2. Boy remembers his wife and killer of his past life, and then he actually finds them. So this was this article was actually posted in the Epoch Times, and it was also published in a few other places and in a book. So while a woman in Turkey was pregnant with her son, this happened in the late 50s, she dreamed of a man. I think his name is Selim Fesli, who appeared to her with a bloody face. So she had no idea who this man is. All of a sudden, she has this dream. He shows up. He says his name is Selim Fesli. And on May 9th, 1958, a man's body was found by the name of Selim Fesli. He had been shot in the face and also in like the right ear. So I guess it like hit him in the face and went through his ear or something like that. His neighbor admitted he shot and killed Fesli, but he said it was an accident and that they were hunting at the time and it was a hunting accident. The woman's baby was born with a small deformed right ear. Can you believe that? Corresponding to the wound that killed Fesli. So now her son is now 4 years old. His name is Sahim, or I think it's Sahim or Semi. Maybe let's just call him Semi. Semi walked to Fesli's old village and talked with Fesli's widow. This is what he said to the widow. He said, "I am Selim. You are my wife, Katabi." He remembered intimate details of their life together and even the names of their children. The boy said that his neighbor had intentionally killed him over a dispute about Fesli's mule gazing in the neighbor's field. But the neighbor claimed to this day that, or, at the time, that it was just a hunting accident. So basically this boy's like, no, you killed me because my mule, when I was Fesli, kept going over to your yard and grazing in your field, and you got angry and you killed me. So every time that the boy returned to Fesli's village throughout his life, no matter what age he was, and whenever he saw Fesli's neighbor, he would start to throw, or his murderer, he would throw stones at him. He said he did not want to act more violently or kill him because he was worried the neighbor would then reincarnate again and then take revenge on the boy. And then he said this cycle of hate and revenge would just ensue for just multiple lifetimes after that. So I guess so he just wanted to throw stones at him and just let him know, like, you killed me in my past life and I'm not happy. So that's why I'm throwing stones at you. So such an insane story about reincarnation. I really like these stories a lot, but this is also something that's pretty common for people with like some kind of birth defect or birthmark or some kind of deformity. Usually it means that that's how they were killed in a previous life. So it definitely goes along with the ear aspect of this. So such an amazing story. Better than the previous one with the man riding on the truck. Or turning you gay. I still can't get over that one. It's hilarious. I'm sure you guys think that one was funny. All right. Taking a little bit more serious step here again. Number one. And I have to admit, I've never heard this story before. Out of all the times that Rob and I have done Edge of Wonder, this is all new to me. A UFO sighting and the creatures seen by one man in the summer of 1945. He said they walk like us. So if you haven't heard of this before, this is called the Trinity UFO case. It's a tale that literally sounds like this was a plot straight from the X-Files. So we all know that on January 16th, 1945, the first atomic bomb test happened, which is now known as the infamous Trinity test in New Mexico. It was a whole movie about Oppenheimer and everything else. So what most people don't know is that just a month later, there was one of the biggest UFO crashes that is now called the Trinity UFO case that ever happened. Just so 18 miles away from the Trinity test site stood the Padilla family ranch. It was kind of in the middle of nowhere, and there was another family ranch nearby. So 9-year-old Jose Padilla, he actually learned to drive his father's truck when he was 9 years old because his whole all the men in his family were all serving in the military, like World War II during that time. So nearby was his friend Ramiro, and Ramiro had his family farm that was nearby as well. So they knew nothing. The entire family, both families, knew nothing of the government tests that were about ready to happen with the Trinity test in July. Both families were in shock by the flash when they saw it and the mushroom cloud. Jose Padilla, he's the young boy. Years later, he talked about it years later, but he said there was a tremendous sound followed by a heat wave. His mother even lost sight in one of her eyes because of the intensity of the flash of light that they saw. Now, all of this is documented in a book called The Investigation Trinity, the best kept secret. It's all about how all the other serious consequences for people living in the area, but because because it was such a massive top secret, the U.S. government was not providing any aid nor even acknowledging that anything happened. So also this book documents the whole UFO phenomenon too, and the crash. So we'll get into this. So 1 month later, after the Trinity test, this is now in August of 1945, Jose and his friend Ramiro, who was only 7 years old. So Jose is 9, his friend Ramiro is 7. They were both kind of like from Native American families. They were going on horseback looking for Jose's lost cow. Then suddenly they heard another explosion, and Jose said the ground shook, and then they saw smoke nearby. And so they decided to head out to investigate. Here's what Jose said in his own words more recently. He died now, but he said this maybe like a decade or so ago. And this is what he said in his own words about what they saw. So Lindsay, can you play this?
From the bomb. And he says, no, it's not a bomb. Look at the smoke coming out of the ground.
It appeared to be coming from an avocado-shaped aircraft. This is an artist's rendering.
All of a sudden, 3 little, I would say, kids got up of it. They were kind of sashaying and running around in circles.
He says they resembled extraterrestrials he's since seen in the movies.
They walk like us, but they look like a fire ant standing up.
Okay,
The
you
Griffith
can
Park Observatory.
you can pause it right now. So this is mind blowing. So this is again 1945. Jose said he described the object as being around like 7 to 9 meters. This avocado shaped craft that they saw that crashed and about 15 meters high. He said he didn't have any fear, but when he saw the beings, because what happened was it looked like this thing hit some kind of radio tower, and that's what made it crash. And he said when the beings got out, he didn't really have any fear, but they seemed very like disoriented and just kind of like freaked out that they just crashed, and they were looking at the ship. And that, obviously they didn't mean to crash. And so him and his friend Ramiro were watching from like a ridge. And so they stayed clear of being seen. So they were kind of looking down, like seeing this whole thing. Now, he basically, like the term gray aliens didn't even, that didn't exist yet. But basically, he's kind of describing a stereotypical gray alien look. And he also compared them to like mantis-like beings or even ant-like. So the sun was going down, so they decided to return home. The following day, they were unable to go out. But on the third day, Jose's father went with them, and Jose's father brought a state police trooper who was also a family friend of theirs. So all 5 of them went out this time. All 4 of them went out. So after a little while, when Jose brought everyone to the area where the crash was, they again saw 2 of the beings emerge from the craft, and his father just turned to the boys, and Jose said, according to Jose, this is what his father said. His father said, quote, "Don't tell anybody about this. Not your brother, not your cousin, not your mother, not your father. That's our business. And the reason for this is that you can get into trouble." Now, when he's saying your father, he's talking to Ramiro, or the 7-year-old. He's talking about his father. So later that day, so they all left, and Jose said he was just like, he could not stop thinking about this. And, obviously their parents wouldn't let him go back. So they snuck off again. But this time they saw U.S. soldiers in the area collecting debris and already clearing out the area. Now, on the 4th day, a military man named Sergeant R. Ravilla came to visit Jose's home. He said that they were trying to recover parts of, this is what he said, an experimental weather balloon, and needed to cut part of their fence to install a wider gate and bring in some road construction equipment so they can clear a path. The sergeant also told them not to tell anyone what is going on. Now, according to Jose, he and Ramiro hid in the bushes and watched every day what was going on. He said they brought in massive trucks, and even a crane was brought in. He said the soldiers wore uniforms and would hang out at a local bar after the workday was over. But on the 24th day, they finally wrapped up and placed the craft on this flatbed truck with like a big tarp over it, kind of holding it down. And this is seriously like something straight out of a movie. The kids waited. They were like waiting in the bushes, watching everything, staying out of sight. Then when no one was around and they were kind of wrapping up, Jose and Ramiro went, and Ramiro like undid the tarp and lifted up, and Jose went inside the craft while Ramiro held the tarp. Jose said he noticed that the inside of the craft was metallic, yet there was no shine to it. The walls were curved without any rivets. On one side, there was a panel measuring about 2 feet, and attached to this was some pins with a metal piece, which Jose loosened with a crowbar. This was the souvenir that they literally held onto for years. And there's like an actual photo of this. I'll show it. So slightly over a foot long, they hid their souvenir, and they also named it Tesoro, which means like treasure in Spanish. So they hid this for decades. After Jose's death, which was just kind of recently, he reportedly donated it to a university to have it further studied and everything else. Now, a lot of sources say the whole thing was a hoax. However, years later, the story got confirmation, and that's the insane part. So years later, a reporter interviewed the son of a World War II pilot named William Brophy. This is what the reporter said in her own words, also in this interview. So can you play a little bit of this, Lindsay?
William Brophy.
The pilot's son told me the last missions of his father was to fly over that area. And he said that when he flew over, that he saw two little Indian boys on horseback.
Harris believes those two boys were Jose and his friend. Though warned to stay away, they returned to their viewing ridge day after day.
We were hiding behind cactuses.
Jose says when soldiers took a break from cleanup, he and his friends entered the craft. The creatures were gone, but something else caught his eye.
There was like a little dial.
Jose yanked it out.
I took the part
I think that's
and
just
hid it in my garage.
Chemical testing in 2015 by Frontier Analysis, based out of Ohio, revealed that the artifact was composed of aluminum mixed with silicon and copper. Now, that's a common metal mix found in engine parts. But the report went on to say that even though the isotopic ratios are terrestrial, an extraterrestrial source for the metals is not ruled out.
No one knows what it is.
What do you say to people who might think that you're crazy?
Okay, you can stop it from here.
Well,
you can, yeah. Basically, he's just saying, well, this really happened to me, But I think this is it's just amazing that the woman happened to interview this pilot who actually saw these kids in that area where the crash site happened. Now, over the years, Jose and his friend Ramiro had lost touch. Ramiro became a Marine and actually moved to Washington and got involved in politics, and Jose stayed in the area and raised a family. Jose never changed his story, and both men were separately interviewed in 2012 and told a similar story about what happened to them. Jose believes wholeheartedly what he saw was real, and the creatures that he saw were very real too. He said without a doubt that the object they saw was not from this world. And unfortunately, he did pass away a few years ago, but he never changed his story. He never said, oh, no, we just made it up. It was all fake, but he stuck with it. And on top of that, he even donated the object to have it further studied, and that's just mind blowing to me. So I've never heard the story before, had no idea. I bet if you go in these areas where if you could see where this crash site, like where it specifically was, and you had some metal detectors, you might actually pick up some interesting things, because I'm sure they missed some stuff because they're trying to do the cleanup super fast, so there might be some things buried there. I've heard we actually interviewed a guy named Robert Earl White who had a UFO crash almost in his backyard in the 90s. And his story is phenomenal, the way he talks about it. If you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. And the whole Men in Black showed up in his house. He has credible evidence. He went back like a couple decades later and found some pieces of metal that he can't figure out what they are. Like you got him, like he tried to get the samples of what's inside the metal, and some of them came back as unknown. So he still has those samples at his house too, and he showed it to us. So it's just a phenomenal story. There's multiple witnesses involved in his story. There was fire. The fire department was involved, and also we have this whole alien races as well, mentioning some of these different alien races. And also, by the way, you guys, if you give us your email, you can get our whole digital PDF of all the drawings that Rob personally made of the aliens. So just go to our rise.tv /alien races and give us your email, and you'll get emailed the link for our digital version our digital book of the Alien Race Guide. So pretty cool. Rob did all those by hand, not through the computer. He actually drew every single one of them by hand, and that's what we used for the show. So pretty amazing stuff. Yeah, I was just blown away that I've never heard the story before. So I love doing this show because I'm finding things that just never heard of before. So super cool. Because for Edge of Wonder, I'm trying to stick with more current stuff. And so it's kind of cool going back in the past and seeing what happened in the past. So I think that's pretty amazing. So, well, you guys, I hope you liked this episode of Weirdest News in History. Let me know which one you like the best in our comments. Also, if you have any stories that you found throughout history that you want to share with us, send it over at weirdernews@rise.tv. Again, that's weirdernews@rise.tv, and maybe we'll see it on the show. So thanks again for hanging out. Lindsay, thank you for being with me. And until next time, I'll see you guys out on the edge. Take care.